I don't know if any of you noticed that myself and I took a young girl down whose father had been murdered by an undercover booby trap bomb. Now, Ms Blair admitted that he was a member of the organisation and that particular unit at the time that the murder of her father took place. He admitted that in the court. She challenged him outside. All he had to do was say, I'm sorry what happened with your father. It shouldn't have happened. Here was the perfect opportunity for a mass murderer to actually say to a young girl, I'm sorry for what happened to your father. Was he interested in that? No. The mask slipped. And what people seen, this man laughing up into this girl's face, what they seen him doing is what the victims in this part of the country, and indeed probably in other parts, but I can only speak with the people that I deal with. This is what we have to live with day and daily. The mothers of our loved ones walking up the street, looking over at you and laughing. Maybe they don't laugh, sometimes they just smile. Just to let you know, I did it and you can't touch me. Now, whenever they change that attitude, perhaps we might be able to move on. But I dare anybody to tell the likes of Manya and other people to move on and forget it, while the murderer of her father and the murder of mass murder that man carried out actually stands and laughs about it into her face. I would ask you to put yourself in that position where the murder of your loved one stands and laughs at you, and then somebody tells you, oh, you must forget the past, you must move on. Manya is only one of a large number of people, but you were able to see firsthand of exactly what the victims are having to go through, and it is an utter and total disgrace. This man was responsible for the murder of 9 police officers in Newry, in Corrie Square. Now, at the time I worked around the stations, the police stations, and I knew some of the fellas, but one of the fellas in particular was a good mate of mine. And indeed he was going to marry a girl that I had introduced him to. He was engaged to be married to her. He was killed in that mother attack. And that scum that stood and laughed in that girl's face was the boy who was responsible for that. They walked up to 3 policemen sitting in their car with the doors open on a warm summer day, eating ice cream, dressed as butchers with their aprons on them. And he shot them sitting in their seats in the car, and then laughed when he was going away from it. We've continually said that we can move on if we have the proper resources to move on, but we will not allow these people to write the history of this country where they will demonise the people like Manya's father and my father and the people in Darkley Gospel Hall and the policemen who were in Corrie Square, the 9 men and women who were sitting taking their tea whenever the mortar hit the building that they were in. The mortars that this man put together. This man has killed children, women. He's killed Roman Catholics. Matter of fact, they've taken Roman Catholics away, kidnapped them and tortured them because they believed they were informing on them. We'll move on whenever these people are held accountable. Whenever they have to look the other road, whenever we walk down the streets, where they not stand and laugh and cheer at us and shout at us. Where they'll not stand and say, oh, by the way, we're going to go and dig your dad up, or we're going to dig your mother up, or we're going to dig your brother up, or your husband up. That's the sort of language. And for the first time, you people can actually see firsthand the arrogance, the ignorance, and the brutality of these individuals, because that's exactly what we see on a daily basis. People who live in areas, and I'm not blaming you, I'm trying to explain to you here, you may live in areas where you've never dealt with people like this, But we have to live with them day and daily. We see them day and daily. And this is what we have to put up with. And then people wonder why we find it very hard to deal with the past. We can't move on, irrespective of what some of our leading politicians have to say, until we get the resources we need to deal with the victims. I represent a large number of people like Manya, from Manya's age and indeed even younger, right through to people who are 90 odd years of age, who have these individuals, maybe not on a daily basis, but certainly on a regular basis, where they even pull up the car beside them on the street and laugh out through the window at them. These people don't believe that's going on. Well, it is going on. And that's what we have to live with. Now, the rest of Northern Ireland can get on with their lives, while we still have to pay the price of defending our communities. Now, I had asked you to look at your conscience, and I would ask you at the very least to ask your politicians, why won't you help them people in that part of the country, not only in South Armagh but other parts as well. But I want to tell you this, Blair, you may have laughed in our faces, Blair, and in that young girl's face, but I make this promise to you, by the time I'm finished you will not be laughing. I guarantee you that. It may take me 1 year, it may take me 10 years, but sooner or later I will get you into a court for war crimes, because you are nothing more than a war criminal. It wasn't a war you fought, it was a terrorist campaign, but you fought a campaign of genocide. That's what you did. You carried out genocide against the Unionists, and indeed some of the Catholic community as well. Now, we called a meeting there at short notice the other night to a hall in South Armagh on a winter's night. It was teeming down outside. The hall was packed. There was over 200 people at the meeting. But it just goes to show you how many victims is actually involved with fire. Now, the funders have come in here, especially the European funders. They'll come in here and they have done everything they can. They have tried to create a situation whereby throw enough dirt and it'll stick. Well, we have fought it. The police have cleared us, the PPS has cleared us, and we're now in the process of preparing our legal case, because we're going to fight this. We're not known as people who lie down and allow ourselves to be walked over, so we're going to fight this. But anyway, we called this meeting because the victims in South Armagh and indeed further afield are not receiving the help that they actually need. But we know exactly what we need. We have told you and told you what we need to be able to move on. You don't want to give it to us, simply because you want to let the IRA write the history of this country. We're not going to let that happen. We can't let that happen. If the IRA want to write history, let them write their history. But at the very least, have the decency to let the victims tell their side of the story, and not in a way that you want it told, but in a way that the victims feel they need to tell it. And you will hear people coming out now saying, oh, we need to archive this, we need to tell a story. We've been saying that for the last 11 years. 11 years we've been saying it, and some of them are only now starting to come out with it. But in that meeting we had, I asked them quite simply, are we on the right path? Am I doing the right thing? Because at the end of the day, I've said I will quite happily stand to the side as a spokesperson for the organisation, and indeed the role that I play within this organisation. I will quite happily stand to the side if it is not what the victims want. Now, they voted unanimously that I continue to represent their views, because what I am saying is their views. They voted unanimously that we continue on the path we are, even though we're being hammered for standing up for what we believe to be right. But so be it. If that's the way it's going to be, well, so be it. But let me assure you this, we will not sit back and allow the IRA to write the history of this country. You only have to look at the Cullen Centre in South Armagh, they actually tried to use my name as one of the people who used it, and indeed said in a council meeting that I used it several times, and the bandsmen from Market Hill used it several times. They also mentioned UDR men. Now, it has turned out that is lies. It is false information. But the thing is here, how many times have they used this information to justify themselves getting funding in this centre, and indeed other organisations within South Armagh that represent the IRA? I'm asking our politicians to stand up for what is right, to stand up for the victims. I'll tell you one thing for sure, the 990,000 that went to their elders for justice, the money that's going to the Pat Finucane Centre, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of pounds. There's nobody within Sinn Féin complaining about that.